Hello, everyone. Um, Janice, please let me know if you can hear me because I'm using a different microphone today. Janice, please let me know if you can hear my voice so I know the audio is working appropriately. Okay, now I know you can hear me. Okay, first of all, I want to say I am Felicia Grimes, and I am so elated to be here tonight with you to share some valuable tips that I've learned along my journey as a financial educator and someone that went through a lot of loss. So I just want to make sure that you have the toolkits that you need as well so you can move forward to making very good decisions, not just for you, but also for your family. So let's go ahead and get started. But one other thing that I almost forgot to tell you about it that I am a contributor to the prize, the different prizes that for the giveaway. So it's not too late. You can still participate. So make sure you participate so you can be in the drawing for the giveaway. So let's start with is estate planning. Estate planning is one of those really uncomfortable type, conversations that people tend to have because of the fact that you have to prepare either yourself or your loved one or somebody that you know, and it's very emotional. So let's just be clear on that. So I'm going to share with you a story, and it's basically a true story, something that I've endured, something that I'm still going through. But through that, I'm going to help you and give you some guidance, some points, maybe some points of like a reference as a checklist for you to think about. Do you have your estate planning in order? Because life is just fleeting. Anything can happen at any time, and you go like, "Oh, I don't have this together." So, my father passed away um, August of last year. Right when after COVID hit and everybody started to, isolate and everything kind of shut down. He passed away with congestive heart failure stage 4. Okay, I was not prepared for like the end part because a lot of people don't recognize or know that that particular stage actually looks like cancer. And I was not physically, mentally prepared for that. But my dad was like not just my father, he was like my best friend. We were each other's confidants. Although I may look very youthful, I'll be turning 50 in March, and my dad was 71 when he passed away. So through that process, I learned some things that I got really passionate about. I was already into like financial education before like my dad passed because he had been on me. But once he passed away, I got really serious about like wanting to educate others, um, and want to really share about estate planning because this is the topic. It's like going to a funeral home. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. But it's the reality of life. If you already have that accomplished and done, you look up, you go, wow. Um, that's one less pressure and stress you have on you. And Janice, I do understand, and you have my condolences because we've been talking, offline, and it is challenging when you have a parent that passes away. So I just want you to know that if you put certain mechanisms in place, when that time comes, it won't be as painful. You can kind of navigate and move forward. But my dad was the type of person, like most people, didn't prepare. He knew he was ill for like over 10 years. He did not want to do certain things. He wanted to be pressured to do it. So because of that, The pressure fell on me because I was the daughter that he confided into, and he expected all the responsibility to be on, and I had to pretty much do what I needed to do. Although he had a spouse, the situation was a little different. Okay, so some of you may relate to those type of circumstances. I don't want to go in detail, but I was his main source of um, support. Hey, Lolita, glad you joined. And so the reality of it is, my father was on his deathbed, literally. And so, when you go to the hospital, you think to yourself, like, oh my God, you got all this stuff that you need to take care of, and it hasn't been done because you procrastinated. So now it's a 911. So, first of all, we needed to make some medical like decisions, and that was really really important because you have to prepare before you're incapacitated. So luckily my dad was still of sound mind. He could answer questions. He was he could have conversations with people. So at that point the conversation was for me to be his medical power of attorney and not his wife. Okay, so that was number one. Then number two was the becoming his financial power of attorney as well. So those are the two key responsibilities that I had to do. Luckily, at that particular hospital facility, I did not have to fill out a HIPAA form. So those are the three things that you may have to encounter moving forward when you're dealing with a loved one and they're already starting to show illness, or you want to already do this in advance. So you can already, like my mom, she already had her documents already ready. We're just doing a couple little updates. She's been kind of preparing for this like forever and a day. So with that in mind, she's taking that pressure and burden off of me because I already have the documents ready. My dad, I had to go rush and try to get it done and then try to get stuff notarized. You're up under this pressure tank when, you're working full time, you have a part time job, and then you're back and forth to the hospital. I mean, it was like a lot. Very, very stressful. So you want to get those three elements in place beforehand. I know that for some people, they go, I really don't want you to know my financial information. At some point, you got to trust somebody. I just had this conversation with one of my dad's really close friends yesterday. And he's very financial sound. And it's like he only has one child. So I'm thinking to myself, if you don't have any real deep issue or concern about this child, why could this child not know about some of your personal things now rather than finding out when you pass away and then you got to try to fit all the pieces of the puzzle together, which is very stressful. So, as a parent, if you have children now, it's best to start getting some of these documents ready. Um, like my dad, he did not have an advance directive, but because I spoke to my dad on a regular basis, I knew what his wishes were. So he didn't have it in writing, but we had talked for years. So in that case, I could be okay with the medical decisions that I made because we kind of went through the process. I was lucky because my dad understood the different stages of congestive heart failure and how things were going to go at the end because he did not want a heart transplant. So with that in mind, you have to think about, do you have an advance directive? So if you have an advance directive, you can already put those decisions on paper. So that's non-negotiable. This is what you want to happen. This is your decision making, and that way you can take the pressure off someone else. So just kind of think about that because that's really important. You can already have that filed at the hospital or at your doctor's office. So you want to think about even also having copies at home because you need all this documentation. You need to start having it housed maybe like in the cloud, or you have your old school copies, but you need to have a backup of your old school copies. That's just the reality of it. So you want to think about like if you become terminally ill or you're injured or you're unconscious, if you have an advanced directive, you can already make those decisions now. So that's just food for thought. Um, can your spouse really make those decisions? There are some people that cannot make decisions for you because they become so emotionally overwhelmed, or they just have guilt if they make the wrong decision. And so, can they live with that guilt of making the wrong decision or right decision? So, to me, it's like I can only make the best informed decision at that time based on what I know at that time. And that's what I did for my dad. I just made the best decision I could leaning on medical science, doing my own research, and moving forward. So you want to also think about life insurance. Do you have a life insurance policy? Do you already have your beneficiaries outlined? Do you have copies? Do you have them where somebody can find them? Because sometimes people don't want to just give you that information. You may want to think about um, maybe giving it to a couple people in case you don't want to give it to a family member. I'm just being honest. In case you don't want to share that information too soon. But really got to have that plan together. And yes, Lolita, it is hard to lose a parent and someone close to you and be the executor of their estate, along with being their financial power of attorney and medical power of attorney, because it's so overwhelming because you go from one situation to the next to the next. And so yeah, it's easier if you have pre-planned this. Like my mom has pre-planned it. The only thing I have to do is like do her a PowerPoint because she's like cooked on this. She wants a PowerPoint for her memorial service. She already has the pictures. Like she's giving me the pictures, y'all. Can you believe that? So now she said she wants to write her obituary. Okay, fine. So you're taking it all off me, and it's already done. So I want you to think about like annuities. If you have annuities, do you have them housed somewhere where the person would know the name of the annuity, the company to contact, and who the beneficiaries are? Also, you want to think about like your retirement plans, all these financial related items that you have beneficiaries. One key important thing people don't think about is a bank account payable upon death, because I was lucky that I was already on my dad's account. So we had a shared account, and that's something that you may want to consider. Like if you have a parent, it's sometimes easier to already be on their account, and so I was already in that situation. So I didn't have to do the pay up upon death because we had joint account, joint checking and savings, and so that was like really really helpful. So you want to kind of think about having the paperwork for pay up upon death, and let me give you a good little story about that. I had a friend. Well, I have a friend. Her mother passed away right maybe 6 months before my dad passed away. So she had this payable upon death, and guess what? The bank like misplaced the payable upon death paperwork because they changed systems, and they were like, "No, you don't have that in place anymore." Luckily, she had the original paperwork that she could produce, and then it took another 3 days for the bank to get it resolved. So it's going to be key that you keep the original paperwork. So when something happens, you have that documentation. So that's something else like on your checklist. Also, if you have like stocks and bonds, you want to do a transfer on death for those particular items as well. A lot of us don't know this. Like Lolita, like she says, as a culture, we should have these conversations even if it's not comfortable. That's a true fact. A lot of people will just refrain from having these conversations. And then when you have to like funeralize somebody, it's like, oh my God, I got to do this. Like, luckily, like my dad already knew my dad's wishes, so that part wasn't difficult. My mom already got her stuff like paid for, done, so I know where to go with that. But a lot of people just won't sit down with their family members and discuss these hard conversations. They're just not going to do it. So, at some point, you have to start the conversation. Even if it's just getting snippets of information at a time, documenting that, coming back with another snippet of information. Because if you see like it's too much for a person, then you just get snippets at a time until you get everything like completed. Because otherwise, when they pass away, it's just very difficult because you're caught up in your own grief, and then you have these roles and responsibilities, things that you must do, and so it becomes very very hard. Seriously, it really does. So I want to talk to you about a situation I'm in now. And it's not a comfortable situation because my dad, the way he set things up, he did a will and he didn't add the trust component to it. So had he added the trust component, it wouldn't be public. So as soon as my dad passed and his will was sent to his attorney's office, basically it was public information at that point. Because it was public information, it was within like 2 weeks, people were calling me, asking me, do you want to sell this property? You know, we can take it over, we can gut it, and we can buy it as is, and we can do this and we can do that. I'm like, I'm in grief, and you're calling me like to buy a property? Are you serious? They will hound you because it's public information. They have access to find you. They do skip tracing to find you. So if you have the certain parameters in place by having the trust, and the will, the trust will actually protect the will and it will not be public information. You want to think about that, because do you really want your friends and family members in your business? So that prevents your family members from being in your business too. So if you're leaving money to your kids or doing this and doing that, nobody can really see it. But if you just had it set up like a standard will, like my dad, it's just been crazy because all kind of people will call, and you're just not ready for those phone calls. You just don't want to deal with it. It's just a challenge. So you want to think about, when you do that, you lose your privacy. Also, because of that, it can delay like your decision making, because you're just, when I say delay, you're frustrated because people are calling, and then you have really important decisions to make, and then you're frustrated because it's like, people are so disrespectful. That's the first thing I thought, was like, you're so disrespectful calling me. Are you serious? And so they go, oh, I'm so sorry. No, you're not, because you called anyway. So yeah, they got the nasty Felicia on that. Every time they would call, I was like, no, I'm not playing with you. Don't call me back anymore, ever. So eventually, I started blocking their numbers, and they stopped calling me. So you have to resort to those type of things. So we talked about beneficiaries. We talked about annuities. Um, Make sure that information is on your banking account, and you want to check this kind of stuff. The reason why you want to check it is because I have another little story. One of my dad's friends didn't know that his ex-wife had never changed the insurance policy, like from like 20, 30 years ago. She passed away, and guess what? He was still a beneficiary. So you want to be checking this stuff along the way. You never know when you need to make some adjustments, tweaks, changes. Perhaps, someone that was a beneficiary has passed away. I know somebody in that situation, and so they get to be sticky icky. That person's no longer here. So then where does that money go to? So, you kind of want to think about that as well. In terms of executor, it's really, really hard being an executor, and you are a sibling, and you are grieving for your parent. That's like three different pains and stressors you deal with. So I was talking to an attorney on Monday, and they were saying that they really encourage people not to appoint an executor to be a family member or someone that's in that will, because of the fact that will or trust, because that person's up under so much pressure already, that it's hard for the person to continue to consistently move forward with completing all the executor responsibilities in a quick manner. Typically, like, probate can last anywhere from a year to 3 years. Depends on like the process, and COVID, to me, in my opinion, is moving faster than I expected. I mean, my delay was because some personal stuff I was going through, so it delayed it maybe a couple more months. But really, I'm still on track. I'm still doing like really good with my whole probate like situation. But Lolita said, also please know that when you don't have a will in place, they would dictate who gets your family assets. You right about that. You want to have that piece of paper in place some kind of way, and you want to have it done, and it's got to be notarized. And here's another little tip. I didn't know this. It has to be stapled, and you cannot remove that staple. Period. So if you have to scan it, you just have to scan it with the staple. You cannot remove that. And so that was something I didn't know, but there's this interesting little point. Let me see if I missed anything. So you want to think about who you want to include. A lot of people don't think about like um, how they want to do their living trust, how they want to do their will, who they want to leave, how what percentage they want to leave each person, what items they want to leave. You have to think about all of this, like, big picture. That's why some people change their will along the way and change the trust along the way, because the relationships have changed. Let's just be real. Sometimes the relationships change. I don't care if it's your sibling, your parent, or whatever. The relationships change over time. Some relationships are strengthened, and some of them are weakened, and some of them become distant. So when you're looking at your beneficiary information, you got to also think about: do I need to tweak that will? Do I need to tweak that trust? You know, do we have some issues here? So the relationship I had 5 years ago, is it still intact? Like now? Those they're just being real and being real honest. Now, if you don't put any kind of amount, if you have children, you don't put any kind of amount on that on the will, then they can dispute it. So the lowest amount you can put on there, from what I understand, is $1. I know that sounds harsh. I know that sounds like, oh my God, that is cruel. But people do it for legal reasons. And their relationship sometimes is different. And so I hate that people do that, because to me that's very painful, for you to leave someone $1. Period. I think it's awful. I think it's tragic. I think it's devastating, and I just think it's just downright nasty. So, and people do it, and but you have to designate some monetary amount when you have a lot of children, because then they will dispute uh, the will. So you have to do something about that part. And gathering all your paperwork, I mean, it's key. I mean, I know I spoke about it a few minutes ago, but it's key to have that type of like documentation together and organized, because it's like trying to like figure stuff out. Like my dad's stuff was not all organized, and it was like, Lord help me. And then it's troubling when you have to be the executor and you got to open a mail. Ooh, that's rough. I'm not gonna lie, it's rough. There was times I'm like, ooh, I need a glass of wine. This is tough. Like, and then there was like times I just shut down, like, I can't do this. This gonna have to be put off. I mean, you just have to have those real moments where you just like, you realize that you're in grief, and you realize that you're human, and it's only so much that you can like take and process and absorb. And there were times I was like, you know what, this gonna stay in that box. So what I started doing was, like, I had all my dad's mail forwarded. So there were times I just like, okay, I can't handle looking at this mail. I can't handle opening up a mail. I can't handle like looking at his name on the mail. Mm-hmm. So they're like triggers that you don't recognize that will happen to you when you're going through like being an executor and you're dealing with grief. It's like constantly a double whammy. And then like if you have siblings and the parent wasn't good toward the sibling, and you're trying to comfort them, and it's just sometimes it could just be a bit much. So you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to comfort yourself and comfort others too. So you want to think about, like, if something happened to you, who's going to raise your children? You want to have that documented, and you want to have the proper paperwork also for that in the event something happens to you. Who would you entrust with your own children? That's something kind of deep. So and also too, then the person would need to know, like, they would need to go to Social Security to get survivorship pay for that child. All of that, and even the spouse gets survivorship money too. And so you have to investigate it in all of that as well. So you have to make sure, we talked about, make sure that your will and your trust is notarized. I want to ask a couple questions. Yes, Janice. I'm glad you're going to take notes, because there is a lot with this. I mean, I'm just kind of giving you the big picture, but if anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will help you as much as possible, because I even help people get their wills and their living trust together, and they can formulate it, and then they can send it to a law firm that I utilize, that I actually promote. I'm just gonna be transparent about it. It's not expensive. It's very reasonable because it comes with the package, but you have everything done for you. So you don't have the stressor of like, okay, what are the legal terms I'm supposed to use? It's kind of like a fill in the blank template, boom, 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 and you're done and you're moving forward. Alidity says, always check your bank accounts, insurance policies, stocks, and update your information as your beneficiaries, executor, and your will. Yes, it's very important. It's very important. And like, my mom realized there was a mistake that was made at the cemetery. So luckily she had her original paperwork and she went in there and defended herself about it. Hey Anna, she defended herself and they had to rectify it. So you never know. You have to keep kind of checking on your stuff from time to time because things change and situations change. And so, are you really prepared for tomorrow? Are you comfortable with the state deciding what's going to happen to your assets? I mean, because if you don't do something to get protection now, it could happen. Just like, when a person dies, you still have to pay their property tax. Even if you're an executive, you still got to pay their property tax on on whatever properties they have. Because, you don't want to be in a situation where you lose a property over taxes. So you have to work those things out because as executor, there's certain things that just have to be paid, and then there's certain things that don't. They're not like primary. So we could talk more about that. Those people that want to know those a little bit more details, and that's based on my knowledge and based on my current experience because I'm going through that now. So number two, if something should happen to you, who is it going to be a family member or is it going to be a friend that you feel the most comfortable raising your children? That's something that you need to start thinking about. And if so, if you have an insurance policy, you have a trust, you have money set aside for them, are they trustworthy where they would do the right thing? I know that sounded ugly, but that's a true fact. So you got to kind of think of the big picture too. Is this a deeply trustworthy person? Um, Do you want your children to control their inheritance when they turn 18? Or do you want them to have a designated, like, wait till they're 25, if put in the trust and have a stipulation, you must go to college and do this and do that. And if they don't do this and do that, then they don't get this and that. So you can be very specific in the trust about, afterlife if they don't do what you expect them to do. So just kind of think about that. And who do you really know that can make the appropriate health decisions for you? Is it going to be a family member or is it going to be a close friend? Who knows about your health now? Who knows what kind of medications you're on now? Who knows how to access the information to get the list of medications you're on now? I mean, do they know the doctors you go to? Do they know that you have diabetes or heart condition? Do they know? I mean, I have a family member. I didn't even know that they were diabetic for like 5 years, and we were going to places and doing activities, and they could have passed out. I would have never known. So people live in that privacy spectrum where the reality of it is that they need to self-disclose more, so you can be a more support for them, and then you can help them with their challenges. My last question is going to be, have you completed a power of attorney, medical power of attorney? Have you done your trust and will? And if you have not done some of these items that we talked about today in the live, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I do have a service that I do offer. So if you're interested, it's not painful, trust me. It's very systematic and easy to fill in the blank. And then you're one and done. You get it notarized. You upload it. A law firm will review it, and then it's there. Okay, so it's not like what I had to go through. Not I hadn't. So, Janet says, "Do you want a family member, a close, trusting friend to take care of your kids? What kind of control do you want to have on your kids?" Yeah, those are very important questions. Those are those aha moments that you really got to think through. I mean, a lot of people don't want to face those type of questions, but you have no choice. Like I'm married. Okay, if something should happen to my husband, I need to already be thinking, who's going to be my next person in line in the event that he is not here to make decisions for me? That's important. So you got to think about that too. Okay, I'm your beneficiary. Who is your alternate person? What if something happens to your executor? Who is your alternate person? So you got to always have alternates. And who really reiterated that was a financial planner. They were like, you got to have alternates for all of this stuff. Because if something, just like, your retirement, if you designate somebody to get your retirement and they pass away, well, who's the alternate? So you have to really, really think about that. Oh, please leave us your info, links, and where we can find you, connect with you. You can connect with me on Facebook Messenger. On Facebook, of course, I'm Felicia E. Grimes. Also, I have a website, and it is FeliciaGrimes.com. My first name, last name.com. And I have a little form you can fill in, and it's like a contact form as well. So there's two ways that you can contact me. And I have really, really enjoyed the opportunity, and I'm going to jump off because I have another event that's about to start shortly. But Janice, I thank you for inviting me to have this opportunity to share my wisdom to help the people in the group. And I hope that you guys continue to participate, because guess what? We have some prizes, and I'm one of the contributors for that top prize. So make sure you're still in the game, you're still participating, you're doing the things that you need to do in order to, yes, that's the website. Thank you. To participate. And so I look forward to connecting with anyone that wants to know more about financial education, identity theft. I do that too. I do like digital identity theft and also regular identity theft. So if you want to know more about that, please reach out to me. And I'm just kind of a wealth of knowledge. I do a variety of things, but I am so elated to be a part of this group. And I thank Janice. And yes, Anna, yes, let's connect for sure, because I'm all about helping and supporting. And I have something else I want to talk to you about. So I'm so glad that you popped up today. This is my sorority sister. She's so sweet. She's always supporting me. And so we support each other. So thank you, Anna. Love you. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And I appreciate your time. And I hope, yes, there were some great golden nuggets. And so, thank you, Janice. I appreciate you. So anybody have a question, just drop it in the comments. I'll monitor this and I'll get back with you. If you don't want to discuss like something personal, just send me a message. We'll connect and we'll talk. We can do a face-to-face on Zoom. We can do a phone conversation. Or no, whatever you feel comfortable doing, I'm here to support you. So with that in mind, I'm going to say bye and thank you so much. Bye-bye.